my financial ecosystem and exactly how it works. I first want to start with how I came up with this and why I use it this way. I think that's the most important part. We're going to talk about 4 components. We're going to talk about cash flow. Remember, cash is trash. We're going to talk about assets that are deflationary, opposite of the inflationary US financial system. Protection, okay? Rule number 1, Warren Buffett, don't lose money. Rule number 2, follow rule number 1. And leveraging responsibility to feed this ecosystem once again. Before I kick it off, there's a couple books that you should read after you watch this video. Number 1 is Richest Man in Babylon. Number 2 is Cash Flow Quadrant. I want you to study those books and really understand how to get on the right bottom side of the cash flow quadrant, which I'm going to show you, and also Richest Man in Babylon. We should always be multiplying our money. We also need to understand, since the Federal Reserve was created, which is not federal, nor are they reserved, our US dollars collapsed about 97 to 99%. So think about that for just a moment. We are the #1 currency in the world's reserve currency, and we've collapsed 97 to 99%. So what does that tell you? We're in a system that is changing. We're in a system that is continuing to transmute. Now that's really important. Think about that. I'm going to say it one more time. We're in the strongest currency in the world, and we've collapsed 97 to 99%. America has more debt than it has income. China's at 300% debt to income ratio, and America is now over 120% debt to income ratio. So that was a lot to get to the ecosystem, but those factors play an important part of how I do it. And I'm not telling you this is what you have to do, but this is what I've done to become a 7-figure investor and a 7-figure entrepreneur. And now we're about to pour fuel on this as we go into the bull run on the back end of 2025 and to 2030. So first, let's talk about cash flow, okay? Cash flow. Cash is not king. Cash flow is king. We want to get the ecosystem going, okay? So if you're getting paid in someone else's debt, there's no money in the system. Every single paycheck you get is someone else's debt. We have more debt than we have income, okay? The whole US monetary system operates off interest. So you're either the liability person or you're the asset person, okay? One man's liabilities is another person's assets. So what I do is when I get paid cash, I make sure that I create cash flow. So I take my cash flow, and the first thing I do is I move it into deflationary assets. Let me give you an example. Bitcoin has 21 million in supply. It's one of the most scarce assets in the world. It's a fixed supply. They can't print any more Bitcoin. And another one of my biggest holdings, my #1 holding, is Xrp. It has a lot more in supply, over 1 billion in supply, but it's a fixed supply. Both of those mechanisms, they can't print anymore. They're fixed supplies, and they're both deflationary, which is opposite of the US monetary system, which is inflationary. So let's stop for a moment and talk about that. So every single year, if you don't beat the 2% inflation with your job or your company, if you don't gain 2%, you actually become poor every single year. A great example of that from 2020 to 2024 with Bidenomics, we lost 19% of our purchasing power with 19% inflation. So as the world lost 19%, or Americans lost 19% of their purchasing power, with my deflationary assets, one of them went up when Trump got elected 600%, and another one went up 195%. My XRP when Trump got elected went up 600%. My Bitcoin, BTC, went up 195%. So as everybody lost 19% of the cash they were storing, I went up 600 and 195%. Now those have both gone down. I think this is down to like 135 and this is around 528, okay? But do you see what I'm doing here? I'm taking cash, which is trash, and I'm transmuting it into the assets that are deflationary, okay? So the next step in here is protection, okay? Protection is a key component. The first annuity was in the Roman days. Insurance has been around for a very, very long time. I would look up tax code 7702A, which was created in 1913 when the Federal Reserve was created. Okay, that allows people to borrow from cash value life insurance tax-free. Okay, now the important thing about life insurance, cash value life insurance, get my pen working here, cash value life insurance, okay, is that they're structured properly and you fund them properly. Very, very important, okay? Then the next is leverage, okay? So I'll walk you through the whole thing. So every single time I get paid cash, I'm either putting it into assets that are deflationary or I'm creating more cash flow, which goes back into assets that are deflationary. Now I have monthly premiums going out, or monthly cash going into my premiums, creating a family bank, and I have my leverage. Where's my leverage coming from here? I have leverage from my insurance, and I have leverage from my BTC. Richest man in Babylon. Okay, let me walk you through it. So cash flow, put into deflationary assets. Deflationary assets appreciate. Now I have a bank that I can borrow against tax-free. I have my protection component, okay, creating leverage. So I have two components there. We have the leverage component from the BTC, and we have the leveraging component from insurance, okay? So very, very important. So let's walk through that again, the ecosystem, okay? So I get paid by my companies, cash flow. I also take the cash flow and I do cash generating dividends. I transmute that into deflationary assets that grow in value, okay? I put money into my life insurance policies, creating protection. And then I have two leverage components. I have my BTC and I have my cash value life insurance. And then what can I do there? I can leverage to buy more cash flow. And we repeat the process. Now here's the thing. When it comes to leverage, this is very important. You need to learn to leverage responsibly. Okay, when you're leveraging against BTC or an asset, you're leveraging against a very, very volatile asset. So you want to make sure you leverage responsibly. So here's how I did it. I'll give you an exact example. So I leveraged Bitcoin recently to buy an insurance firm. Okay, so I already had an insurance team, and I built my own insurance firm. So I needed some capital to do that. Now remember, OPM, you always use other people's money. So I went to my BTC, I put it on Salt, okay? On Salt is a DeFi platform. Salt gave me access to my Bitcoin, gave me liquidity, gave me cash, tax-free, so they gave me their money at 14%, locked up a portion of my Bitcoin, and I went and bought the firm. Now the key to this though, is that the firm is already generating cash. So the firm is now paying this off, and when it's paid off in 12 months, I borrowed at 14%, BTC goes up 50% on average every year, and I made 36% on my money. I'm in first position, I'm now the bank, okay? Another thing you can do is you can go to your cash value life insurance and you can leverage sometimes around to 5%. And then if I'm going into a cash generating dividend, if I'm getting anywhere from 30 to 100% depending on which one I'm doing, I go back to pay off the leverage, okay? The reason why I wanted to say that caveat is a lot of people I see will leverage against their assets, and they'll buy Lambos, they'll buy watches, they'll buy a bigger house. That's not what you want to do. You want to leverage to create what? Cash flow. With the cash flow, get assets that are deflationary, okay? Stack your cash value life insurance policies and make sure you responsibly pay off the leverage. That's the richest man in Babylon. Remember, first step in richest man in Babylon is to save 10%. The next step is to create a brother or sister, and within the book it talks about not playing games with your money. So this to me feels very, very safe, right? I'm stacking my family's bank over here and our future wealth. I have the protection, so this is about 30% of our wealth, right? So we're protected over here. If all these markets collapse, my money's insured, and I have all this leverage that I can access. Leverage. And I believe BTC and XRP will be two of the most valuable assets in the world. So I'm building this massive ecosystem for my family. But what you should think about is, what does your ecosystem look like? Are you going to school, getting a job, and you have a 401k, a vertical strategy? Imagine in 2006 to 2008 what your parents went through. Some of them are about to retire and the whole housing market collapsed. They worked 30 years to retirement and their whole retirement was gone. That's a vertical strategy. Well, when I first started my business, my first business, I was in the business, I hadn't scaled it, I was trading time for money, and I had crypto. That's a vertical strategy. Well, what happened in 2022? Crypto collapsed. So I started building this ecosystem in 2020 to 2022, and I really accelerated it from 2022 to 2025. And now on the back end of this bull run, I'm gonna fill all these buckets and we're gonna start to build generational wealth. So I hope this helps by me breaking down my ecosystem. Cash is trash, cash flow is king. I like to get into assets that are deflationary. They're going to be here for a long period of time. I'm always protecting my family with the premiums going into my policies, which creates a leverage component from my digital assets and my life insurance that I can leverage to what? Buy cash flow to de-risk back. So I hope that helps. That's my exact ecosystem. That's what we've been doing. And now we're going to really fuel all these buckets on the back end of this bull run in 2025. And then I really do, in 2026 we go into a deep bear market again, then I can buy a bunch more deflationary assets and repeat this process and build generational wealth for my family. As we always say, warriors, rise, get your shit together, let's go.